Zoe Anderson. Welcome.
This poem is dedicated to your mother. On the banks of a creek, willow hollow and sponge brown, two women, black and silver-crowned crones of the blank water, work, wrinkled fingers, feeling, feeding, weaving this murk trickle, this slit of silt. They catch the creek where it bends and weave it into pond. The first woman is as old as valerian root is bitter. She has a face full of wrinkles like the folded story of 1,000 smiles, and a memory like a moth-eaten jumper. There is room enough inside her for a spool of thread as long as the distance she has travelled, spun with all the colours of the places she has been. If she had a cottage, it would have a hedge of silver beet, thick enough to disappoint every one of her grandchildren. Standing ankle deep in creek, she collects foam cups and beer-bent glass and plastic bags and turtle shells and puts them in a shopping trolley for safekeeping. Oh God, she's doing that thing where she's picking up rubbish again. This old woman is definitely my mother. The second woman is younger, but also definitely my mother. And what she's doing here twice I couldn't tell you, but she has a lighthouse in her eyes and a litheness in her not yet ancient bones. She has a voice like the telephone and a heart mended with araldite. There is room enough inside her for a gum tree full of parrots. And if she had a 2-bedroom apartment, it would have a staircase to the ocean and wool enough to tangle up all of her children. Using a staple gun and an aluminium rake, my mother pulls apart the dull, opaque tresses of creek water and lays them, frying pan flat and round as the dinner table. But there is a third woman, and that third woman is me. I look down at the creek and the terror in my eyes fills out all that I can see. My skin is pale, a plastic bag left unrotten underwater, my voice as untethered as nostalgia. There is room enough inside me for an anvil made of brittle plastic, and if I had ever owned a duplex townhouse, it would have a well in the backyard that no one could draw water from, enough dish soap to sting the eyes of all my lovers' children. Using mother number one is trying to hand me a vacuum cleaner, and the other is explaining the thing that I must do. Something about cleaning the creek water, and the old one is being so vague and doddery, and my middle-aged mother is being bossy, correcting my grip on the vacuum cleaner, saying, "Darling, we're so glad you're finally here." Why are you here, Mum? Why are you here twice? God, why are you old? Like parchment and sandpaper, and why are you young like when I was small enough to fit within the circle of your arms, like when you were containment and overcooked broccoli, and I thought we grew out of that stage, both of us. You shouldn't be here, Mum, not even you, old you. I can remember nursing you far into the future from where I thought I was standing. I can remember your eyes running and your hands shaking, and you begged until they upped your dose of the numbing elixir being pumped into your veins. And I cried, and the bed was cold, and that was that. But God, why am I here, standing ankle deep in mud and flanked by two mothers? It feels like a badly told story. But in stories, there are always three. And she is one, and she is two, and they are both, and I am her, and oh God, no, in stories there are always three. And I push a way-placating hand, an old bent woman falls into brown shallow water with a splash, and I turn away and I run away from the creek, run in any direction at all, across a flat, parched plain, a dry blue sky. I run into the empty nothingness. I run, and the cloying creek water is behind me. On the banks of a creek, willow hollow and sponge brown, two women, one dripping damp from the blank water, weep for their lost daughter. and for themselves. And I run across the flat, parched plain. I run towards the wide, empty horizon. I run, and then suddenly the creek is before me and I'm tripping over tree roots, steadied in the arms of my middle-aged mum. Why must it be my mother? How dare she be helpful? And so I turn away, stubbornly splash up the creek past silt and mud and rotten leaves, frogs and fish and spiky reeds, and all abruptly round a bend, the wide, flat pond, the rake, the shopping trolley, and my mother, or mothers, whatever the number, in their dualistic aspects of decrepitude. I look down at the water and then up again. It's like looking in a fucked up mirror. And I know that wherever I go, she will always be the end of my journey. My mother, this patient teacher, she is just waiting until I can hear what I'm telling myself. The endless inevitability of becoming anything else but this, but them, but us. On the banks of a creek, willow hollow and sponge brown, I became my mother. And I don't mean that if I have children, I will subject them to such fashion crimes as dressing them in skirts over tracky dacks for school. Or that I will raise 2 children while trying to survive on the pension with a sick husband and training to become a yoga teacher. Or that I'll feed my family nothing but potatoes for a year. Or that I'll drive my child to netball while having an allergy attack because my body is not strong enough for antihistamines that day. But I also do mean these things. I mean, whenever I walk in the forest, I collect bits of its tree and bark beauty to line the walls of where I live. I mean, wherever I go in the world, I will see the pain that is there and hold out my arms because I know I can help. I'll be a best friend to my children and a parent to their best friends. I will never stop learning, and I will have a face full of wrinkles like the folded story of 1,000 smiles. Under the dappled shade of she-oak, up to our knees in the trickled tears of time, where the sound of frog song is the smell of home, I stand arm in arm with myself. I am maiden. I am mother. I am crone. I am childless and yet I have many children. I am ageless and yet my skin is folded with time. I contain everything that is good and horrid and old and hard and new. I am death and dreams and blood and birth. And we 3 will chart the chronology of this trickled water, swirl its currents into stories that are collected in the still, round pond, and from there reflected up into the vast blue world.